Quick impression for you. Caw, caw, bang, fuck, I'm dead. Yes, friends, we will be seeing a lot of dead crows today. I am and this is I Played a Thing, JJ Squawkers, New Game Plus, Unabridged. Despite being almost entirely nothing like a cave Danmaku shooter, JJ Squawkers does have a second loop, and it is a stone bitch. So, without further ado, let's get this pain train on the rails. Now, one thing you may notice right off the bat is that in the second loop of JJ Squawkers, the backgrounds get new palettes. And I must say, Pistachioville is looking downright picturesque in its delightful fall colors. Other than the new background palette, very little has changed so far, although you might have noticed the weasel enemies being a little more evasive, but the gloves haven't really come off yet. They're easing us in slowly. And speaking of easing it in slowly, that mouse guy just won't leave the tree alone. His face is really kind of disturbingly realistic compared to the art style for pretty much everything else in this game. Oh, there's a death already. So I have to wonder if he's supposed to represent someone from the dev team or something like that. But that's the sort of information that in a game of this age and with this degree of obscurity, it would be practically impossible to find out. Unless there happens to be someone from Athena watching this and fluent in English. In which case, please do clue us in, and also remind me to buy a few extra lottery tickets because I am clearly having a bizarre streak of luck. Anywho, nothing too out of the ordinary thus far. Although the enemy waves are definitely getting a little thicker, there is nothing we can't manage. And I haven't put it to the test yet, but I think I have figured out how to get the point items up there on the roof. Those mole guys that pop out of the ground with the manhole covers, when they raise those manhole covers above their heads, you can jump on top of them, and I'm pretty sure you could use that to boost yourself up to the roof there. Probably more trouble than it's worth, though. I don't know what those are supposed to be, maybe kangaroo rats or jerboas, but those are also coming at us with a bit more density. And we also have a second mid-boss here. The second loop throws in another instance of the bizarre chicken-headed flower thing, but it's no more difficult to beat than it ever was. And we have the Piercer, which is going at an upward angle that is not helpful at all in this section. You know, I'm pretty sure through both loops over the course of this LP, the only one of the rare power-ups I ever get is the Piercer. I get that several times, which is completely weird. Oh well. No matter, we're already back to the Boss B. He's finally using that attack that he wouldn't use in the first loop. Although we did of course see that in the final wire puller stage, first time around. And you may be thinking to yourself, this boss really hasn't changed much at all. And indeed, in the second loop of JJ Squawkers, the big hike in difficulty comes from the stages. For the most part, the bosses really aren't changed much at all. A lot of times their attacks will come out a little faster, and in the case of the Bee, I've noticed he's definitely more willing to use his dash attack. However, up until the end of the game, bosses are really only mildly changed. And you can see, as I mentioned before, how the stars at the end of a stage greatly increase in value in the second loop. And I have to say, the Dream Burglar stage in the second loop, the background takes on a downright eye-searing quality. Fortunately, with all the foreground elements, we won't have to stare directly at it too much. And here you are seeing an example of something very common in the second loop, which is increased enemy speed. Things will just come rushing at you much, much faster than they ever did, in addition to the frequently greater density of enemies. Pretty much everything gets a speed upgrade. We haven't had too many of them yet, but when you start running into projectile-happy enemies, which starts to mostly happen in the third stage, you will see the density of the projectiles they throw out is dramatically increased, and that's really where the game starts to get ugly. first and second levels, I would say, definitely you're seeing here how having all those weird proboscis things rushing at you in much more dense patterns, that can be a little tricky, but overall, nothing too crazy is happening yet. But come the third level, yeah, that's when that'll start to change very visibly. I have to say, even though the palette for it has become a little on the loud side, I really do like the artwork for the background of Dream Burglar, no matter which palette it's in. Very trippy and Pullyrula-esque, but very nicely done as well. And those rebounding balls continue to take me back to the days of store demos for Amigas. Steely Boink and what have you. And the slowdown begins in earnest. I don't think we ever saw the gears in the first loop. I'm skipping over the power-up right there, but the gear is just the power shot version of the legged slinky thing. I'm sure I'll get them sooner or later. Works pretty much the same as the foot slinky, but you just throw out 2 gears instead of a single foot slinky with each shot. And the angry reaction of the box guys there continues to kind of creep me out. Although their rosy cheeks look a lot like Dreamcast symbols, and it's another nice bit of nostalgia there. And just like Boss B, not really a whole lot of change to Madap here. You can handle him just about the same as you would in the first loop. Not sure what I was doing there, I pretty much walked right into that. Ah well. If you're gonna have to die in JJ, you'll want to die at a boss, because that way you don't lose any progress unless it's your last life and you have to continue. I don't think the beans are really what I would most like to have for this boss, just because the limited range makes it a rather slow going, but we're almost there. And we're there. I'm not entirely sure what determines the point value of the stars that pop out of a boss. It's a pretty wide range. We had the 4 digits to the 5 digits there. Remember what I said about the third stage and it starts to get a little on the ridiculous side? Yeah, we are just starting to see the beginnings of that here. Anyway, as I was saying, oh god, this. Nope, I'll have to hold that thought because this. Holy shit. Yeah. Anyway, back to my previous thought. What was my previous thought? Oh yes, the point value for the stars seems really wide-ranging, anywhere from the low 4 digits to the high 5 digits in this particular loop, and I'm not sure what determines it. I think it might be something to do with how many bounces they've done and what height you grab them at. On the other hand, I haven't really put that to the test, so for all I know it could be completely random. And as I so often do, I've already lost a hit point to the mecha moles at the beginning, and yep. If you've taken that first hit, getting through the absolute shitstorm of metal balls being dropped there is extremely difficult. If I can even get that far again. Yeah, that initial mechanical mole rush that starts the stage there, that is just absolutely banana farts, and getting through there without taking a hit, while extremely valuable because it makes it a lot easier to survive the metal orb hail, is not something I can do very often. I would say that is probably the first really bullshit moment in the second loop of JJ Squawkers. there will be more to come. And very briefly there, we got to see the gear, the power shot version of the Slinky. Not a huge difference, just pretty much gives you an extra projectile with each press of the shot button. Let's try the high ground this time. Wow, that worked out shockingly well, but we're not out of the woods yet. Okay, and using the gravity qualities of our current weapon, that'll make taking out the robot here quite a bit easier than it would otherwise be. But since this is the second loop, they decided to throw a second one to us. Well, no matter. We can pretty much handle the robot the same way we always do. Just get down on your belly and keep hitting the fire button. Oh. I don't know what the hell I was doing there. One oddity here is that if you die in that general area and respawn here with the robot, I'm pretty sure it will only ever give you a single one. The second robot just doesn't respawn when you recover from that checkpoint. Which is a-okay by me. What with the amount of fire button hammering you have to do, this game can get kind of tiring on the fingers. Especially so in this here second loop, because there are so many more things you have to hit. Thankfully, that second dropping projectile storm is not anywhere near as nasty as the first, but they do throw in a barrage of cyber moles immediately afterwards, so once again, a really good opportunity to take your 2 hits and lose life. Alright, third time's a charm, right? Nope, nothing about this stage in the second loop is a charm in any way whatsoever. Excess shot. I think excess shot is a permanent power-up for the enemies in this section. Ours is just not keeping parity. Yeah, as if the rain of projectiles and the moles aren't enough, we have those spinning polygon guys, which, another very excellent way to take a hit in that general section. But we are finally through, and we're back into the auto-scrolling section, which, in the second loop, has become unspeakably evil. You're already seeing hints of it, but it'll just become more and more apparent that they've added a whole lot more moving blocks. A few more stationary ones, but a whole lot more of the googly eye ones. Right before the boss, there's a particularly vicious section of them, which you will definitely know when you see it. For now, all the clunking around is a little nerve-wracking, but it's nothing too seriously dangerous. Right here, where we have them sliding around in all possible directions, combined with lots of death pits, that's when it starts to get ridiculous. But I am going to stick with the beans, because just like in the first loop, they are a pretty damn good weapon for this section. Lots of hits in the shortest amount of time, which is really what you need in order to get the lots of hits that it takes to stop one of these blocks in their tracks. And the range really isn't anywhere near as important. Oh, so close. Geometrical paradise, my ass. Geometrical purgatory. On the bright side, this is another background that is rather nice to look at, and unlike Dream Burglar, its new palette is not anywhere near as headache-inducing. Yep, if I were playing this in an actual arcade and spending non-virtual quarters, I have to say this is an area that would really piss me off. Okay, that I thought was kind of slick on my part. So far, doing better. May these trends continue. See if we can get through there without picking up the slinky, and yes indeed. And here is that part right before the boss that I was talking about. This is absolute lunacy and is extremely hard to get through without taking a hit. Every now and then I find a timing that seems to work fairly consistently, but because the timing is kind of precise, the odds of replicating it on purpose are pretty infinitesimal. Excess shot should help a little bit though. Yeah, Athena, I think you're putting some pretty heavy expectations on the player there, but that right there was the timing that seems to work fairly consistently, like riding the blocks up to the top and then kind of zigzagging your way down through them to the bottom. But again, it's something I can try to do, but will only successfully pull off every once in a blue moon. And since I just got myself killed by Thunder Bokan in a really stupid way, I'm not entirely sure what I was doing there, we have to do the whole thing over again. Ah, damn it. Didn't work out that time. Definitely didn't work out there. And I do beg your pardon for all the repetition, but I wanted to give you the real JJ Squawkers second loop experience. Nope. I'm not even sure. Oh, there I am. The frame rate there kind of made my invincibility flashing render me completely invisible. Alright, let's see if we can do this a little less stupidly this time. Not got ourselves stomped upon by the Lego ED209. Okay, we seem to be in fairly good shape vis-a-vis the boss pattern here. Just gotta keep this up a little bit longer, and there we do. And just like I promised in the first loop, where I forgot to do it, we're gonna beat up on the scientist a little bit. And onto the cosmos. I tend to think this stage is not quite as horribly evil as Geometrical Paradise in the second loop, but you're already seeing there are a much broader range of enemy spawn points, and some of the projectiles, like the stars coming out of the pots there, a little zippy, a little on the speedy side. Also, they put those pots fucking everywhere. Come on, guys. I also really like a more suitable weapon for this area. I am not a huge fan of the beans when it comes to Cosmos. And as was pointed out by, I believe, Mivarinthia, the upgraded weapon pickup icon for the beans is a watermelon, so I guess they're no longer beans, but rather watermelon seeds? Actually, come to think of it, the non-power shot version of the pickup icon looks quite a bit like a pea pod, so maybe they're... lost my words there for a minute. Maybe they're peas rather than beans, and then they become watermelon seeds. All pointless trivia to obsess over, but hey. We're basically seeing the same game, can't talk once again. We're basically seeing the same game a second time, so gotta find things to talk about. For example, I would really, really appreciate if another weapon would drop for me. Also, those crowns, were they that fast on the first loop? I remember they were pretty fast then too, but I think they might have gotten a little speed goose in the second loop, as so many things have. Damn it, enough of the peas! Peas are actually probably my favorite veg when it comes to the dinner table, but in this particular context, not quite as big a fan. And many people pointed out that the hunter with the dogs there is quite likely Orion, which is a very good point. That's like one of the most well-known constellations there is, so I have no idea why I didn't think of that. It looks like I've been taking things a little too lackadaisically, and my timer was running out there, but if I'm going to go plunging into a death pit, it really doesn't matter, now does it? Also, the Viking figurehead there, much faster projectiles and a faster rate of fire as well, but that's kind of par for the course in Cosmos here, and oh, I don't think I ever noticed before that you can destroy the lower face on the Viking longship there. It doesn't attack you or anything, and destroying it doesn't help you advance, so I don't think there's any purpose to doing it, but just another thing you can do for funsies, I guess. And once again, we will be taking on the Hydra, and it has hardly changed at all. I think it has a somewhat faster rate of fire, launches out more projectiles at you in the same span of time, but the projectiles don't appear to move appreciably faster, which would be a more dangerous edit, I think. The gravity effect on the Slinky here is not being particularly helpful when it comes to this boss, but we've got that little drop off there for them to fall down onto its heads when it's at the bottom of its pattern, so not so bad. We've almost got it down to its gold form, and the gold form in the second loop, I don't think it's really changed at all relative to the first. And there you see that the body continues to not hurt you at all. All you really have to do is avoid contact with the head, and it's all good. And just like we did in the first loop, you can pretty much hug its body as it's exploding, and you will immediately get all the stars. So there's that too. And just like that, we are back to Wire Puller once again. Now the bosses here, just as they've been throughout the second loop, have not really changed a whole lot from the first time out, but the clouds of enemies in between the boss rush segments, because the regular enemies are so sped up in this loop, they're actually the real danger in this stage, I think. At least until we get to Yellow Man. When we get to Yellow Man, it will be a whole different story, because Yellow Man, as I guess is appropriate for an end boss, is upgraded quite a bit more than most of the earlier bosses. The bosses are the least of my worries because I'm not even getting through the kangaroo rats or gerboas or whatever it is they might be. Oh, come on, me, this is just embarrassing. Again? We would like to at least make our way through the first stage of the boss rush before running up against a difficulty wall. That would be quite nice. Fortunately, after surviving the whatever they are, members of the Rodentia family, Boss B is about the same as he ever was. Only actually a little bit easier, because sometimes he'll hang up on the platform there, and sometimes he'll get his projectiles blocked by the platform, and all around the platform just makes things quite a bit easier. And I do like the way he blows up into a festive cloud of butterflies. These proboscis thingies, I don't know if they're supposed to be any kind of real animal or traditional monster, nothing that I recognize. Not a big a deal, not as big a deal as the kangaroo rats slash gerboas or whatever. And I see I still have not learned to deal with the platform changes to Madap. I don't think they'll screw me up quite as many times in this loop as they did the first time around, though. Let us hope. I do not want those peas. Still have to say I think Madap is the creepiest looking boss in the game. There's something about its facial expressions and the way its cheeks puff out and kind of the jowly quality to it just bugged me. Although I will say that Yellow Man Wonder is pretty stiff competition. That nearly went completely awry, but we've got it almost down, just a few more hits. Oh, the spiral! Deep hurting. Yeah, you may be noticing there's still quite a bit of runtime in this video. The wire puller stage second loop gives me a little bit of trouble. Compared to Geometrical Paradise, we actually did pretty well with Cosmos. Which came as a bit of a surprise to me, because Cosmos usually is pretty tough, but we made pretty good time through it. I will say that, with the exception of Wire Puller, which definitely turns into the worst, Geometrical Wonderland is probably the second loop's most difficult stage. Just all those steel ball projectiles being rained down on you from above, the auto-scrolling segment gaining a whole shitload more of the googly eye boxes, and fun stuff like that. I do have to say, I really like the color cycling thing the background is doing here. It's almost like a Mandelbrot kind of pattern. Certainly a damn sight nicer than the seizurific thing it does for the final segment, which did cause YouTube's compression to most entertainingly shit the bed. My apologies for that. If there's any way of alleviating... What the hell was I even doing there? If there's any way of alleviating that, I couldn't begin to imagine what. If I still had Skunk Fuqua, I could say, hey, just download the video, but unfortunately I don't. I'd still like to get alternate hosting for my videos one of these days, but right now, because I am still not in the world of the gainfully employed, money's a little on the tight side. There are some developments of that which may show some promise, so hopefully I'll be back on my feet again. But we'll see what happens. And I am just embarrassing myself against Madap here. Usually not someone I would think of as one of the major stumbling blocks of the game, but, well, it's second loop and it's Wire Puller. And that does tend to kind of mean all bets are off. If I stay a little closer here, I think I might be able to get him to hang himself up on the platform there, and indeed he did. I really should have thought of trying that earlier. But I think we might have an easier go of it now that he's hanging up on the platform here. If I can avoid any more really stupid deaths. Oh, look at that! I can't avoid having any more really stupid deaths. Imagine that. Come on, Madap. Take a dive for me, won't you? This is getting very monotonous. Alright, we've got him stuck on the rightmost platform again. We're taking completely unnecessary hits again. Ah! Some of these deaths, I just want to kick my past self. Watching this a second time, I can see them coming like a mile off, so I have no idea what was up with my reaction time at the time I recorded this. Well, we do finally have the gears in a somewhat useful place for them. Twice the projectiles, twice the fun, twice the boss killing rate, hopefully. Is that a peace sign inside the gears? I should pause that and take a look one of these days. Looks like it might be. Sorry, we've been seeing this boss fight attempted over and over again. I'm kind of grasping at straws as to what to talk about here. I suppose I could talk about what I've been doing lately game-wise, which is mostly Darkest Dungeon. I'm a little late to that party, but I've been enjoying it tremendously. Hey, hold that thought, we've got mecha moles here, and the gears are actually working really well for them. This is a part with all of them rushing at you where it's very easy to take hits. Unfortunately, Thunder Bokon is still pretty easy. And if he decides to jump up on one of the platforms there, he'll become especially easy because we can just hit him from below. No, that didn't work out. Anyway, Darkest Dungeon, I've been playing a lot of that. It's a very cruel game, but it's addictive as hell. Has that crack-like quality of so many good games. I don't think it's something that I would ever LP because it is a very repetitive game. You're pretty much doing the 4 same dungeon types over and over again until you level up sufficiently and get through all the bosses, but I do enjoy it a great deal, although my enjoyment is somewhat tempered by the fact that I'm approaching the end game, where even if you're at level cap, then the enemies are just plain stronger than you, so you kind of have to rely on a merciful RNG to progress at times. Overall, it's a very RNG-dependent game in general. I mean, any RPG is going to be that to a degree, but I think Darkest Dungeon a little more so than usual. Sometimes the game just kind of decides, nope, you're not gonna hit with any of your attacks, and the enemy's just gonna critical you over and over again, and you're going to get shit tons of sanity... I can't talk once again. Sanity... That's hard to say. Sanity damage on you constantly. All your party members are going to go batshit insane, and then start dropping dead. Also, when one of your party members goes insane in Darkest Dungeon, then, they tend to start screaming gibberish or screaming abuse and making the rest of your party insane. It's almost like a Dwarf Fortress Tantrum Spiral. Darkest Dungeon Edition. But never mind that, we're finally done with Thunder Bokon. Here in the second loop, this barrage of star pots, whatever the hell they are, is kind of a bitch. The way I approach this is just to try to not get hit by the pots themselves, because I know there's no way in hell I'm going to actually be able to dodge the stars. So I just kind of have to deal with the pots, which I can actually track with my slow-moving eyeballs, and pray that the projectiles don't hit me. On the other hand, the Hydra, still easy. I do have to say, for all parts of the Hydra, I just absolutely love the way they make it give you your Karasukun death scream every time you hit it. Wonderful bit of sound design there, guys. Oh, we can stand on it as it blows up. Neat. And now, the seizurific background and the Headbiters. The Headbiters in the second loop, kind of a problem. They were slow-moving enough that you could handle them despite their density in the first loop, but here, they're pretty goddamn fast, and that's a problem. And we have the Piercer, but Yellow Man is also going to be a problem. Because in the second loop, he is a little more projectile-happy, and his projectiles are extremely fast-moving. So much as in the first loop, when he decided he was just going to rush you and throw the entire contents of his kitchen drawer at you, you were pretty well fucked. Here, if he does that, you're extremely fucked. Well, we got to Yellow Man Wonder on the first attempt, which is a bit surprising to me. Just can't stay away from that Xenomorph mouth, though. At least I've got a good weapon. As I've said before, I like to have a gravity-affected weapon for the final boss here. We actually made a pretty good go of it with the screws in the first loop, but that was kind of an anomaly. That usually doesn't work out so well for me, and I really would rather have the tomatoes or the slinkies. Actually, I would really like to have the gears back again, but My odds on getting a drop of another power shot here are probably fairly slim. Alright, we got through the head biters without taking any hits there. That is a good beginning. Yellow Man being a little more generous with the cutlery than I would quite like. But we are starting to get close to the end of the runtime, I can see, which means we won't have to sit through too many more attempts of this. Actually, in the entire wire puller boss rush, I think I may end up spending the most time on Madap, which is just plain weird. Yeah, when he starts to really let fly with the cutlery, I'm not real sure how you're likely to be able to actually dodge that. And maybe if you have much better reflexes and hand-eye coordination than I do, might be a more manageable thing, but all I can say is for my qualities, about the best I can do there is spray and pray. And the rest of the time I'll be spraying and praying he doesn't throw another round of knives and forks at me. Because, much like Darkest Dungeon, Yellow Man's behavior is very RNG based. We got the temporary invincibility power up there, which is another rare one, so it's not just Piercer that we get in this run. Yellow Man Wonder is a little less RNG-ish compared to the first form, but in the second loop he does like to do the charging attack a lot more often, so you kind of have to be ready for him to rush you at any given time, and preferably use the platforms to get yourself over his lovely dome-shaped noggin. Also, in the second loop, he will launch out his mouth pretty much every time he runs past you, so anytime he does the charge attack and you get over him successfully, you'll want to turn around and be ready for an immediate xenomorph action. We have the gears. I've got a good feeling about this. Good feeling over. Will this be it? No! Alright, we're gonna make it to Yellow Man with our full health, it looks like. Always helpful. Didn't last very long, but at least it wasn't a death. Well, that worked out quite nicely. Can't say as I've ever really aimed for the trap Yellow Man in the corner approach before, but worked out pretty well. And we had a rare case there of second loop Yellow Man Wonder not immediately launching out his mouth after a dash attack. And it's something that you do not often see. I think this could be it, folks. In the immortal words of Bullwinkle, this time for sure. Got a good pattern going here, just gotta keep it up. Victory! And I'm not going to attempt to speed read the ending text here again. It's pretty much exactly the same. Let us hope that second time around, Yellow Man will finally learn his lesson and it'll finally stick. At the very least, there is no third loop, so we don't have to stand by and watch our house get egged into rubble again. So that's JJ Squawkers' second loop. I have to say, it went a little better than I expected, with the exception of Wire Puller, which is always painful, and Stage 3, Geometrical Paradise, which is also always painful. I made a pretty decent go of it there, at least compared to what I usually end up going through. So, pretty good run by my standards, at least. Rest up, guys, you earned it. And this time we go straight to the high score table, which every time you continue, your score gets reset, but it remembers all the high scores you got, so here we are after all my continues, entering my name for all 10 spots on the high scoreboard. We're gonna punctuate that with a $sign in memory of all the virtual quarters that gave their lives to successfully complete this loop. Well then, folks, that right there is your JJ Squawkers. One of the lesser-known games from the late Athena, but I'd say one of their best. They were a developer whose quality varied widely across their gamography, but every now and then they turned out a pretty good one. Swordmaster, one of their NES games, was also quite respectable, and that's another one that got kind of overlooked. If I recall correctly, it was a very late NES release, around the time that people were already moving on to the Genesis and TurboGrafx and what have you, so that's another one I might do one of these days, just to show it a little love. That, however, is a story for another time. For now, I am Un, I thank you very much for watching, and that's game, Hendrix. Kaizo Karasu-kun Brothers has been brought to you through the generous patronage of Justin Carpenter, Nolden, Zangamarth, Charlie Dunst, Anonymous Benefactor, John Madigan, Sanguine Games, Misha Van Doren, Frank Grizzy, Tim J., Lolo De Puzzlo, Joshua C. Ritchie, Darren Chow, Sonic Rose, EX Potemkin, Alicia Goranson, Argyle Jelly, Mechasaurus, DG Jono, Doug Russell, August Fortnite, Patrick Bellinger, and other very kind supporters. Thank you all, and thanks to all you good folks commenting, subscribing, and watching. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend, and I'll see you next game.